The base station operation is a very, very important part of ATA's operational structure. The people assigned to the base stations work many hours of overtime to assure that everything is ready when our aircraft arrives. Dealing directly with the public, these people must be ready at all times to answer any one of 1,000 questions on any number of subjects. Base services is one of the unsung sections that makes ATA the excellent company it is. The Crew Services Department is the section of operations that verifies the crew members' per diem, captain's payments, American Express and Visa charges, hotel invoices, and assists personnel with obtaining passports and visas that are required. Crew Services also provides 24-hour transportation for American Transair personnel to the airport, hangar, warehouse, or wherever needed. Each and every month, approximately 5,000 used and unused airline tickets for American Transair personnel are verified and processed by this section. Hotels for ATA personnel and distressed passengers is another very large job. Not only are hotel rooms needed daily, but negotiation for food discounts and van transportation in foreign countries and the USA must be arranged for. The catering of all of ATA's flights is the responsibility of the catering department here at Indianapolis. Setting up catering is a very involved process. Contact is made with the various vendors and caterers at each station out of which ATA operates. The caterer who meets ATA standards must be briefed on the type of meals and services we require for each type of flight. Arrangements must be made with the vendors to supply the required items. The Flight Attendant Administration Department completes the Passenger Service Division. This section is responsible for all aspects related to flight attendants, including training, in-flight service procedures, and administrative functions. The Flight Attendant Training Department is based in Indianapolis and is responsible for the initial, upgrade, and recurrent training of all ATA flight attendants. This section ensures compliance with FAA regulations and company policy. Training for all special incentive flights, wet leases, and luxury first-class around-the-world flights is also handled by this section. The next division to be visited is the Fuel and Contract Administration. It is broken down into 3 sections. Fuel is the second largest expense the airline has. Regardless of where in the world ATA goes, so goes this department. They must not only negotiate fuel prices, but also must ensure that fuel meets proper specifications. In-2-plane services are arranged, payment terms negotiated, and all other fueling requirements are met. The second section is Contract Services. Contract Services represents ATA in airport affairs and negotiates contracts for passengers and aircraft servicing for ATA's major stations. This includes airport agreements, ticket counters and gate facilities, manpower for passenger and aircraft handling services, and security services. The Flight Administration Department is responsible to administrate and coordinate contracts and for securing aircraft and passenger handling for all ad hoc stations. This includes facilities, manpower, equipment, ramps, passenger services, interior aircraft cleaning, security screening, U.S. Customs and Immigration, and invoices for all services are then processed for approval through Flight Administration for accounting. They also ensure all aircraft authority requirements are met. The planning for a flight begins a minimum of 60 days prior and at times 120 days prior to the flight. The administration of a flight is also done daily. If a flight must divert due to weather or such, this section must, in a matter of minutes, ensure the necessary arrangements are made so the flight can be handled just like it was supposed to be there. The last division of operations to be covered is the Chief Pilot section. The Chief Pilot is responsible for the administration and supervision of the flight deck crew members. He supervises the B727 and L1011 flight managers, chief flight engineer, corporate flight manager, base flight managers, and the flight crew training manager. The flight and base managers work with the chief pilot in the selection of all flight deck personnel and the supervision and utilization of the flight deck crews. Each aircraft has its own flight manager. Each aircraft has assigned check airmen who also report to the flight managers. These check airmen are responsible for the training of the pilots after they have completed ground school and simulator. This includes flight operations and aircraft techniques, evaluation of new systems equipment, INS, Omega, and FMS navigation training. The chief flight engineer is the direct supervisor of all flight engineers. He is responsible for their performance and training. He also assists in the selection of flight engineers and in the development of procedures for safe and economical operations. He is the flight crew weight and balance technician and ensures reconfiguration of all aircraft are within FAA regulations and company policy. Manuals and Publications is responsible for creating and/or purchasing, revision and distribution of operations manuals, checklists, and forms. Also, operation specifications for crew members, office and base personnel, aircraft and support personnel. The manual section is the prime coordinator between the FAA and various operating areas in the development of new procedures and instructional aids for flight crews. A technical library, which includes advisory circulars, technical support documents, and operating manuals for ATA's aircraft, plus materials that are used for day-to-day operations, is maintained by this section. In addition, complete ship's libraries are maintained on the aircraft, including worldwide Jepson coverage. The manager of flight crew training has the overall responsibility for the training of the flight crews. He must develop and administer training programs for the flight crews. The development of standardization of the flight crews is a large area of concern and is closely monitored by flight crew training. The flight crew training department personnel are responsible for arranging travel and hotel accommodations for the new flight crews. They also arrange for ground school locations, simulator time, and initial operating experience, along with the instructors and check airmen who cover all aspects of a crew member's training. The flight records and training records of all 300 flight crew members are also maintained in this section. This, ladies and gentlemen, was a very quick, basic look at the operations department of American Transair. Hundreds of people behind the scenes are really what makes the department work. Unfortunately, we did not have the time to mention them all by name. The employee is the foundation of American Transair. You are the airline.